All right, we're live. Take it away, Lex. Lead us in.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Buck and 2 MC show, which y'all will hear our voices from here on out every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Yes, some may be pre-recorded or some may be live like tonight. We appreciate you tuning in. Thank you to volunteerroadshow.com for allowing us to use their platform. Big shout out to Orange Mountain Designs, Terry Holder for being the sponsor for this show. Yep, you see it. And what else I got? Oh man, I remember I got this cup. Can y'all see that? Where I gotta be?
That's nice.
Yeah, this was actually a last year gift my mom got me from Orange Mountain Designs. But yeah, also Blue Water Climate Control. We definitely appreciate you, Maria. Say what's up to the people.
What's up to the people? It's nice to be home without a mask. Make sure we're actually streaming live. I'm checking all the devices.
It's all good. Take your time. Hey, we appreciate y'all tuning in today. Today, obviously, I know everybody wants to talk about the amazing, heartbreaking news that we just heard a few hours ago. That obviously there are 2 games postponed due to COVID-19. So we will talk a little bit about that. Maria wants to go a little deeper with the Lady Vol and experience and my personal opinions. So we'll dive into that as well. And we welcome any questions, any comments. Let us know if you hate us, love us, whatever it is. Click that like button, leave reviews. Any little bit helps, all right? We're just 2 women trying to get things done for the Lady Vols, shining our light, making things positive. Maria, well, I know you got the news, and you've probably been busy writing once you heard about the COVID-19 update. So let us in a little bit.
Yeah, then it broke late this afternoon. So I wrote something up after I finished my other job, and then I spent the last hour reading the SEC guidelines. I will never get that hour of my life back. I finally read the full, because I've never had to deal with it in terms of a positive test on Tennessee's end. So right. I've never had to take a deep dive into the guidelines because it wasn't affecting Tennessee's schedule only in terms of when games could be rescheduled. So,
right.
But in this case, Tennessee is the reason they've had a positive case within the tier 1, which means support staff, players, coaches, anybody in that tier 1 that's around the program on a regular basis. And that automatically triggers a whole lot of SEC rules in terms of quarantine. And I thought it was pretty straightforward. You had this, then you quarantine here. There's all sorts of variations of quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anywhere from 7 to 10 days. If you tested negative, which it appears the obviously overwhelming majority of people, it's only 1 case, then you quarantine for 7 days. So that would explain why the Arkansas game is not listed as postponed, because that would put them back
on schedule
on the court next Monday if they back it up to yesterday. And there's also rules that I didn't know until I read. I'm sure other people knew it because somebody else maybe took a deep dive. And Peanut she helped me. She helped me read it. See, here's Peanut saying hi. See, my cat is bigger than Chica Garbuckle.
She is. She's a tiny little thing.
So if you were, and because the first thing I looked up is Lipscomb. Lipscomb is set to play this weekend. They have not had to postpone any games. And you don't have to quarantine if you're negative and you were not within 15 or within 6 feet of the positive case for more than 15 minutes.
Okay.
That probably, given it, even if it was a player, that doesn't put Lipscomb in the quarantine category. It really wouldn't put Lipscomb in the quarantine category if it were an assistant coach or a staff member or somebody even further down tier 1, because they wouldn't have been around them at all. But that doesn't tell us, who it is. They're not going to release that. But I thought, well, why is Lipscomb not being disrupted? And they're not, because they didn't exceed that 15 minutes or more around a positive tier 1 for 15 for within 6, that you were further than 6 feet from.
Right.
So that's I did not realize it drilled down into that kind of detail. So the fact that the players did not get on the court until Monday, and everything they do is socially distanced, from film study to everything, there are still possibilities that there would be Lady Vol players within that 7-day quarantine who will only be quarantined for 7 days.
Right.
And there could, and you're still allowed, you can't do full team activities, but there could be players who could still go to the gym or go to the weight room because they just can't do things as a full team.
Okay, I got what you're saying. So that's unfortunate. I was excited to enter into the SEC play, as I'm sure all of the fans and coaches and players were. But safety first, and their kids' health and well-being and their life is what's most important. And that just goes to show you, like, this is a virus. It's spread by droplets. You're not seeing, when you're walking into it and where. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're taking every precaution necessary. Multiple COVID tests, right, throughout the week.
Yeah, 3 times a week, and
it's flu season, so it's going to happen. Expect cases to spike. Unfortunately, it's going to get a little worse before it gets better. So still keep doing the right things. I'm happy that it's a possibility that we can still, go up against Arkansas, and we just got to stay locked in, which I'm sure they will as soon as they're off of that quarantine. Ladies, if you're in quarantine, or if anybody's listening that speaks to these ladies, let them know. Continue working out, even if you have to do it at home, body weight, whatever it is, a high intensity, a HIIT workout, it's a lot of workout, something where you're staying active, even though that's not going to keep you in game shape. It keeps your heart rate up, and it keeps your core tight. It keeps you ready, your muscles activated, and it also helps you mentally. So, stay locked in, study the playbook. Arkansas is the first possible game you can. Go look up, ask for film, ask for film. You can mentally prepare as well during this quarantine. So it's a setback, but it's something that we can come out, even stronger and even tighter, as far as our little things that we've been needing to clean up.
Yeah, I'm sure they're disappointed. Probably not surprised because, teams are going through this. But, yeah, you thought you'd be leaving tomorrow for College State. There's just something about going to Texas. Tennessee just cannot go to Texas this year, except for the Final Four. They're allowed to go to Texas for the NCAA tournament. But so I know they're disappointed. I'm sure, Kentucky and the SEC, I would not want to be the person in charge of that schedule because they're just having to constantly shift people around. Obviously, Tennessee, I'll be blunt. The state of Tennessee needs to get its act together with coronavirus. There are 6 postponed SEC games to start the season, and 5 of them are either Vanderbilt or Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee, you're not doing your part here. We're causing too many of these issues. Ole Miss is the 6th one, and Ole Miss was supposed to play South Carolina, but that got canceled on Ole Miss's end. Vanderbilt was supposed to play Florida. That got canceled on Vanderbilt's end. So now on Thursday, Florida and South Carolina will play. So the SEC is going to – and that game was scheduled to take place February 25th. Now it takes place December 31st. So, like Renaya said before the team even knew this was happening, the SEC is going to be won by whoever can handle adversity the best because everything's going to change. Whatever scouting report you thought you were going to have for Thursday, no, you're working on another one. Yeah. You got different. So it's I'm glad they caught it. I'm glad the protocols are put in place, and I know the kids are disappointed, but it's not necessarily a surprise. SMU, Southern Methodist, they shut down their program today. The players said that the in-season experience was not something they wanted to prolong. I think the uncertainty is getting to players. I think the testing is getting to players. The anxiety is getting to players. We talked about there's a mental health issue to both being isolated and not playing. there's a mental health component to playing too, and that's just where we're at right now.
You don't know what's going to happen. You know, it can happen right there on the court, or it can happen in the course of you getting to the game, shoot around, anything. It can happen. And I just encourage people, talk to, you know, whoever your person is, talk to, you know, if you're seeing a therapist, talk to your coach, your family members, talk to anybody that will listen, because this is real. Mental health issues are real. Anxiety is real. Depression is real. And you don't want it to go unchecked or not dealt with. You know what I mean? And as my Lady Vol sisters, and I'm sure I speak for all the former Lady Vols, we're here for you. Reach out. You know, we don't mind giving you words of encouragement, you know, helping you through this. We don't know, you know, how it is to play through a pandemic. We will never know that, but we do know what it's like to be a D1 athlete at the University of Tennessee, wearing that Lady Vol name and logo and representing, you know, the culture that Coach Summit built. So we're here for you.
And any Lady Vol watching this, or your parents watching it, I mean, the players are allowed, obviously, current players have any contact they want with former players. So just ask your coaching staff or your director of ops. I mean, they'll get you connected with Alexis. I'm not asking Alexis to put her cell phone out here. Just don't do that. But if you're a player or a player's parent, you know, just say, hey, I think my kid would benefit from talking to Alexis, or reach out. They're legally allowed to connect you guys up to talk. There's no NCAA issues with current players talking to former Lady Vols. So reach out, because y'all are a sisterhood and you will help each other.
Absolutely. So Maria, do we have anything on Facebook that we need to acknowledge? Any people?
I'm looking now. Courtney Richards said the entire U.S. needs to get its act together, wear masks. I would agree with that. I'm in East Tennessee, and every time I go somewhere, I have to deal with stopping and waiting for people to clear out of the way who are not wearing masks. It's one of the most, I'll be blunt, one of the most selfish things I've ever seen a country do. Just wear a freaking mask. That's all we're asking. Take it off in your car.
This is simple, or whatever, in your house or wherever your destination, safe destination where masks aren't mandatory. So your private destinations. All right, like, come on, I know everybody's ready for things to come back to quote unquote normal life. It's going to take everybody, people. It's going to take everybody. Do your part.
If we had taken this seriously in the spring and summer, we'd be real close to it right now. But I mean, where I live in the spring, I'd say spring and summer, about half the people wore masks. I mean, this virus needs hosts to keep moving, and we've offered it all the snacks it needs every time it goes out. It's just bouncing around.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned before, Sevierville, Tennessee is #1 in the world per capita of positive cases. It's we're fenced in over here in East Tennessee by it. It's not a good thing. But I agree with Courtney. The whole entire U.S. needs to get its act together. The vaccine is coming, but it's not going to come that fast.
Right.
So most people are just offering thoughts, prayers, hope everybody's okay. Also that the virus is real. Donna Hairston said her cousin just got over a bad case. Yeah, I mean, there's been very serious cases in all age groups. You can't just assume because it's a healthy young athlete. Now, I do want to add, I'm not getting any indication that this is a dire medical case. It is a positive test.
Right.
And I mean, we saw everybody there Monday. But it is a virus, and it can do things to the body that are not good for the body. It is not the flu. It is far worse. So they got to take it seriously. Another person asked, when can the team practice together again? That would appear, based on me reading those full SEC guidelines, in about 7 days from the time so it probably would be backed up to Monday, because that's when the test was done. You're probably looking at Monday. Now, the person who tests positive could be in a longer quarantine, depending on what their history is. So it could be that whoever that is would not be able to be with the team. And but I think we're looking at about 7 days if all goes well. And that's the only thing that makes sense when I saw that Arkansas was not canceled. Vanderbilt had the whole start of its season postponed or then games wiped out because of COVID. And Vanderbilt immediately wiped out its next 3 games. So that tells me because of their protocols, they got 10 days of quarantine, and that's why they had to wipe out at least 10, and that's why they had to wipe out 3 games. What else have we got? Why don't they put the conference in a secluded environment like the WNBA? Can't afford that. Yeah, you can't afford that. The WNBA does. What do they have? 100-something players.
Yeah,
and you're talking about all that support staff and coaches. You'd have to take over an entire hotel. There's just no, and how are you going to do it with each conference? There's no money to put 300-something NCAA teams in a bubble. They're going to try to do it with 64 teams in the NCAA tournament by making it all regional in the San Antonio area. But that's still not a bubble. It's bubble-ish.
Yeah.
But there's just simply that is not a cheap thing to do. And
No.
And if you do the women, then you're going to do the men. So really, you're talking about 600-something teams because you'd have to go through the men and women's.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. The NCAA definitely has a lot of money. Don't second guess that at all. But it would definitely be way, way too costly, way more than they're willing to spend to make that happen. That's something that if you're investing in that, it almost has to be foolproof. And there were even some cases, in the NFL and the NBA and WNBA, but it was really, minute. So I don't know. It's not going to happen. That's the answer to that question.
It'll happen in the NCAA tournament because the NCAA does pay for all that, all the travel, hotel costs. Those are not borne by the school. The NCAA pays that. But the NCAA is, yes, the NCAA is not over the SEC. The SEC manages its own teams, and the ACC so it would not be. And the NCAA does have money, but you know where they get 90% of their revenue is March Madness. And guess what they did not have in 2020?
Any March Madness.
Yes, that's where all because they don't own that. They don't do NCAA football. The bowls are not NCAA generated events. Their money comes from basketball, and that got wiped out last March, as we all know.
Hey, I don't know. We'll look to see what happens.
Is there a minimum number of SEC games a team must complete to be eligible for the tourney? The SEC hasn't addressed how many games you got to play in a regular season. The NCAA has said 13 Division I opponents to qualify for the NCAA tournament. Tennessee has played 7. They're 6-1, so they're 6 games away from hitting that minimum of 13. And when I saw that the number was 13, I'm like, the NCAA knows that January could be a washout all over the country. So they set that number so low so that teams could actually be eligible. But you can't be playing any Division II or NAIA. That doesn't count. So,
yeah. Basically, your games have to count, which I like. That should have to happen every year anyway.
But Lex, for you, you've talked about it before, and we're we will keep doing our post game Buck and 2MC for those wondering. This was just kind of more of a freelance, more personality, more talk about, more show pieces and parts of us that we wouldn't be post game. Obviously, we're not going to have a New Year's Eve show or a Sunday show because there are no games. So I guess we could all drink New Year's Eve because we don't have to worry about. I thought maybe we could raise a toast New Year's Eve to on our show, but that's not going to happen now. But you've talked about from an athlete point of view, how hard as an athlete, if you were faced with where everything stands now, do you want to play, keep going, or do you want to cut off the season, what do you think you would do?
My mindset now is different from my mindset in college. Obviously, now my anxiety, my just worrying about, hey, look, this is real. I'm asthmatic. It's really not something I would want to really put myself in. Now, me being in college would have been like, man, we can play. Let's go. I had Superman syndrome in college. Like, just felt like nothing that bad. Even when I broke my wrist, like, was I disappointed? Yeah, but then I was still focusing on returning at the end of that season. So nothing prepared me to stop. My mindset was never to stop. So I think that if I was playing in the midst of a pandemic, I would still want to play. But being 35 and realizing you have only one life to live, is it really worth that chance? No. So many more things that are much more important in life. And, we can always come back. Even it would suck, but even if we have to postpone the season again or cancel it or try to squeeze it in the summer, I don't know, whatever may happen, but it's, I would say let's look for the safety of the kids and the health of the kids and saving lives and not endangering them.
I'll let you answer this one. Karen Vogel wants to know, do you think transfers should be allowed to play right away because a coach leaves?
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, the recruiting comes down to who you want to play for. There's typically a reason why you're going to that program other than, does it have what you're studying academically. You made some sort of connection with that head coach and their coaching style or their coaching staff. So if that's taken from you without any say-so on your part, I feel like you should be able to make a decision, because now if you look at it in the business world, like, this contract really was with me and you. I know the outside people say, no, you made a contract to play for the University of Tennessee. As the athlete, no, we're making a contract really to play for Coach Summit and, the Nikki now Fargus, you know what I'm saying? The Deans, the Hollies. That's who, we're kind of attracted to. That's why we go there. So, yeah, in my opinion, if that happens, I think that you should definitely be able to play, because your world just got changed and you either have to stay there to see if you fit into this new coach's coaching style, which could or could not go well, right? Or should you be allowed to say, no, I want my academic and athletic experience to be, what I want it to be, not what someone else thinks it should be.
No, I agree. Fans have allegiance to one school. That's why they're fans.
Of course.
But if you're a player, the new coach may run a system of basketball or football that you don't, your skill set isn't even matched to.
Right.
And that athlete should be able, and what if you were really down to like 2 schools that you really loved and it was hard choice, and now that second school is like, okay, there was a reason that was my second choice. And right. And if schools had handled transfers better, we would not have reached this ridiculous point that we got to, where schools could block kids from going to certain schools. I mean, Derek Dooley is the king of ridiculousness when he set a mile limit, a number of miles that Aaron Douglas had to go away from Tennessee. And I'm like, this is trash. This system has got to be trashed, because that is arbitrary and ridiculous. And the coaches brought this upon themselves. And now we're in essentially free agent. I mean, that's where we're at now, especially with the one-time transfer rule.
Yeah, so
Gina said, should those in the transfer portal be able to play immediately, or should they still have to wait a year, in your opinion?
Well, again, it goes down to the reason that you're transferring. If the coaching staff leaves or the head coach leaves, then you should be allowed to make your decision to go somewhere else and play and be happy, playing for whoever it is that you want to play for. Now, if you're leaving because you got there and you wanted to play for this coach and now they're too mean or they're too hard or you're not getting the minutes that you think you deserve, first off, you're a freshman. Things don't work like that. There's very few freshmen that come in and just dominate. Very few. So if that's your reason for leaving because you can't tough it out, like, No, you shouldn't play. Now, if you go and complete that season and transfer after you completed your season, I think you should be allowed to play, because technically scholarships are year to year anyway.
Yeah, the people forget that the school cannot renew a player, and the fact that schools were allowed to not renew a scholarship. So you've been told there's no place for you here, and if you transferred, you still had to sit a year.
It's not fair.
I mean that was that. I mean that was not the players. That player didn't want to leave. They ended up being encouraged to leave,
Right.
or told you're not going to have a scholarship. Now, the one thing I don't think people realize with the 1 year waiver, you cannot transfer at the end of December and sign and suit up for your new team in January. I mean, the transfer window, you would have to transfer like at the end of the season, and then you can play next season. I mean, this isn't a matter of you're allowed to change schools. Like, you know what? I played against Texas A&M Thursday. On Sunday, I think I'll transfer there. That's not going to happen that way. There are windows of time when you can transfer. The difference is you no longer have to sit out for a full calendar year.
Yeah, I think it's circumstantial, to be honest. I think that if the NCAA actually took the time to investigate and actually go through every single transfer and the reason why, and like you said, schools should not be allowed to block. If you don't want this player, don't keep them from going anywhere else. Bottom line is you don't want them. They should be allowed to go wherever they want to go, wherever they see fit and that's best for them. And so with an organization or school or staff that wants them as well and feels like they can truly use them, I think that's childish. Like, why are you doing that? You know, this could actually affect the kid's future as a professional athlete if they so choose. Just, mess up their mental health. Having something taken away or blocked for no reason and you work this hard can affect you, mentally. So there are a whole lot of reasons why that shouldn't be allowed. But bottom line is, fans, I encourage you, when kids transfer or players transfer to or from your school, do your research, figure out the reason why, check out the why before you go to judge a kid or their situation or what, ban them or don't let them do this or this is crazy. Really look into it, because typically it's a lot more than what's on the surface.
Somebody else asked, what happens when a coach is fired and the player transfers? A lot of times the school will release the player and then they can appeal to the NCAA to waive the sit-out rule. And that should be done. But the whole point now with the 1 year, one-time transfer waiver in effect is none of these situations matter anymore. Right. You can transfer one time and not sit out. Now, if you transfer again, the waiver rules, they kick in now. You have to sit a year, or you have to appeal, or you have to show a reason why. But if none of these scenarios matter anymore, because that rule is coming. It's going to go into effect, I believe. Actually, because of COVID, the NCAA just flat out put everybody in right now.
Right.
But the rule is coming that you will get a one-time transfer-free situation. And like I said, if you don't, if you're upset about that, you're not aware of how much everything tilted towards the coaches, who could leave at any time, any job they wanted, who could block players from going somewhere, who could arbitrarily not release them. The case that blew it all out of the water, I believe, was the Kansas State situation, where the international player had come to play for that coach, and the coach was fired, and the new coach would not even release the player from scholarship to look around. That is when Jay Billis got involved, and that's really what was one of the impetus for this. If the coaches had not been so petty and arbitrary, we would not have gotten to this point. If you're looking for blame of why we're at this point with the transfer portal, you need to look at the coaches, not the players. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have to second that. Maria, what else we got?
Let's see. Why did Jazz leave UT? She wanted to play with her hometown kids. Treasure hunt. Ryan Howard, all three of them are from Chattanooga, and she wanted a chance to play there at Kentucky, and Kentucky was high on her list before she chose Tennessee. So, I mean, that's sometimes the easiest answer is the one that's right in front of you, and for Jasmine, I mean, she was a starter. This wasn't playing time, and she still seems to be great friends with the Tennessee players. I mean, they talk to each other on social media, so you just have to assume that she was looking for a different environment and playing with her Chattanooga people.
Yeah. I like how plainly you put that. Sometimes the answer is just right in front of you. Again, just think with your heart. Don't think with your ego and your bias for being a fan. Really think with your heart and look at these young ladies as people, because they are. They're not just athletes.
No, and too often they're looked at as just people that put on uniforms and go out there and play, and they've got entire lives going on, and they're 19, 20 years old. So yep. Karen wants to know, should coaches be allowed to disapprove another program's perceived treatment of a player in a press conference without disciplinary action by the NCAA? I assume that refers to Gino talking about Tennessee. Obviously, media called it out. Players called it out. I'm not sure I want to take the NCAA down that disciplinary action track. I think the NCAA's got its fingers in way too much as it is, and in that case, I think public reaction was pretty strong. But I mean, you could argue it both ways. I mean, what's the NCAA going to do? Censor the comment? I mean, it's not going to hold any water, and the NCAA doesn't exist without the school. So you kind of got a fox in a hen house situation. So basically, I think you just let karma take care of itself in a lot of those cases. And it will eventually.
Absolutely. For those who's just now tuning in or who missed the beginning, this is the Buck and 2 MC show. We're coming to you live tonight. We'll be coming to you every Tuesday at 7, whether that is pre-recorded or live, just giving you a little more insight, a little more personality, as Maria told you earlier. Big shout out to Volunteer Roadshow for allowing us to use this platform. And of course, Terry Holder, Orange Mountain Designs, for blessing us, with the gear, keeping everybody, including fans, family, and former players, laced up in Lady Vol gear. Continue to watch, continue to like, thumbs up, send, follow, at friends. We really need the audience because we want to talk basketball. We want to talk Lady Vol sports. We want to talk livelihood. We even talk COVID-19, because you can't avoid it. But holler at us, and Maria's always bringing great facts and great insights.
Yeah, I don't lack for opinions. Let's see what else we got. Veronica Mayberry Frazier said the new rules should also make coaches not lie just to get a kid in the door. Yeah, but Lord have mercy. How much have coaches been lying during your recruiting, Alexis? How many times were you told things where you said, you know what? That's a lie. I even know that's a lie. I'm 16 years old.
Yeah, listen, they promise you the entire world. Listen, they promise you the moon, okay? And they'll tell you anything. When I say they, okay, I am generalizing, okay? I am not specifically pointing out anyone's coaching staff or university, but they'll throw everything at you, whatever it takes to get you to their university, to get you to stay on their campus. And again, you're like, you can do that? Or wait, what? Nah, I'm okay. I'm gonna pass on that. So yeah, it happens all the time, and it's really no way to check that unless you're having now the recruits report back to the NCAA after every visit. And who wants to go through that? That's like having a probation officer. Nobody's gonna do that.
And in what is still a very closed society, I mean, you don't want to get on the list of someone who they think you go to the NCAA and report stuff. I mean, that unfortunately has repercussions down the road. If you're going to go to the NCAA and report something, it's going to have to be something major, not lies. But I mean, coaches have been lying to recruits since beginning of time. I bet.
It's a part of the game. It's like police officers, reporter. I mean, people lie to get what they want. Does that make the whole industry bad? No, you're not going to be able to stop it though. People are going to do what they're going to do. Unfortunately,
I probably butchered this name, Sven Kritzberg.
Oh, I don't know. I can't.
So we are. Mississippi State is ranked number 12. He said they're 5-1. And why is Tennessee not ranked? They're 6-1. The problem with Tennessee not being ranked is they didn't start the season in the rankings. So they have got to claw their way into the rankings, and that all those teams above them have got to lose several times and lose, not just one game to a top 25. It is hard to crawl your way into those rankings. So right now, it's not being voted on based on record. If you're not in it, I mean, Tennessee could have beaten Texas, it probably could have been in it. They certainly could have been in it if they go and beat Texas A&M and then beat Kentucky. But now they're not even getting a chance to play their way into it. So it's hard to get in it if you don't start the season in it. Unless you just totally, like Notre Dame started the season in it, and there were a lot of us that wondered why, based on Notre Dame's record last year. That was a vote. I don't know if that's a popular vote or an assumption vote, but Notre Dame is now fallen out of it because they're not living up to expectations, and I'm surprised anybody thought they would get that much better that quickly after last season.
Sounds like a case of politics. That's what that sounds like. What could help us, Lady Vols, is if we just win one game at a time. One game at a time, if we focus on each and every game, however crazy that may be, if it's an opponent that just got changed, a day before, 2 days before, or if it's someone we had time to prepare for a week or multiple days, whatever it is, every game is important. Every possession is important. One game at a time.
And Sven said it sounds a bit rigged. It's not so much rigged as that, there's not a lot of women basketball writers left. So there's not a lot of voters who are really following the game that closely at this point. And now some of the voters are. Also, and people may not realize it, but the AP Top 25 and the coaches poll have absolutely no effect on seedings. None. The NCAA keeps their own, and they do their own rankings. And that's how they base seeding, and not on any of the voting polls in the AP or the coaches poll. So they're fun to talk about, but they have no meaning to anything in the way the basketball season will play out. So Tennessee wants to get back in that top 25. It's going to have to play its way into it at this point. And if they'd beaten West Virginia, they'd probably be in it. But
yeah.
You like you said, you got it. When you get those big matchups, you got to take them. When you get those high profile matchups right now, you got to win them.
That's the difference from not only preparing you for the NCAA tournament, but helping you crawl your way up to the top, as you said. So come on, ladies, lock in. We got this. Let's get some wins, big wins.
What else are we asking? Everybody wonders, why does UConn start so high and not play anyone? Well, UConn's one of those legacy votes because, they're at every Final Four. They're going to start high in every single poll.
Yep.
In terms of who they play, they've had COVID cancellations too. They're now obviously back in the Big East. I think they're playing DePaul now, so they're gonna. They're obviously gonna. The Big East is not the SEC though, but UConn is not going to fall out of it as long as they keep going to Final Fours. They're going to keep starting high. So is Mississippi State. So is South Carolina. Tennessee's got to get back to Sweet 16s and Elite 8s and Final Fours are we don't even think about it. We just say, yeah, we know they'll get that far.
Right. And I still for Elite 8 Final Fours. Let's Sweet 16. That's that's too far back.
So it's you know how it is. Tennessee, we've talked about it before. The name Tennessee has dropped
tremendously.
And it's got, and Kelly's trying to get it back. And so far she's had one season where the season stopped right suddenly at the end, and now she's had a season where we're in a pandemic. So Kelly hasn't really had a fair shot at doing what she wants to do, but she certainly is. She certainly has a plan, and she's certainly trying to follow it.
Absolutely, and she's doing a great job of it thus far.
Even Lauren Sumsky said that last night. She said that she asked Lady Vol fans to have some grace with Kelly and give her some time. And the key thing of what Lauren said is that it takes a while to build a program the right way. She kept saying that. And I'm like, man, she's channeling some of that inner Pat. That's,
yeah.
You hear it when it comes out of some of these former players. I mean, they just, even whether they were here a year or 4 years, the Pat's still bouncing around in their head. She doesn't go away.
Oh no, she's there for life. So Maria, before we start to wrap up and round this show out, I know you wanted to kind of put me on the stand. So what did you tell our people what you have in store and kind of what we're going to be talking about?
I'm going to let you answer this question from Courtney first, because you've liked her play and watched her. How much of an impact do you think Destiny Salary can have this year? Her speed and aggressiveness have been impressive so far.
I think she can have a tremendous impact if she continues to stay aggressive and keep that high energy that she brings every single time she's on the court. In order for her to get more minutes, I think you have to obviously be consistent, be smart, take care of that basketball, and just it'll start to come together for her. But I think that she can be a great addition once her game starts to mature a little bit, and if she's kind of locked in on every possession and every minute that she's in, whether they're limited or whether it's a mass amount of the game, that they're quality minutes, productive minutes. So I think that she could do great things for the Lady Vol team.
Someone asked, let's see, do you think Kyra was justified in suspending Ryan Howard? I don't know the circumstances of that suspension, so I'm not really qualified to speak on the situation itself. I do know Kyra is in the mold of Pat Summitt, and Kyra was very upfront about it and said that it's like raising a child sometimes, and sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do, but you do them for the good of the kid. So in this case, I'm going to trust Kyra on that, and it doesn't seem to have hurt Ryan Howard. She's back and doing well. So in those cases, I defer to the coach. They know what's going on in their program, and they know how they need to handle. We'll put you on the spot about, speaking of, you remember that Ole Miss game?
Which Ole Miss game, Maria?
Where you missed a layup.
Mm-hmm. I missed a layup?
You missed a layup, wide open layup too. I mean, wide open. And
quite often. Go ahead.
And you dropped down and started doing push-ups.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. It wasn't wide open, and I didn't miss it. I got an and one because the girl pushed me, and the way that I fell on my stomach, so I just started busting out push-ups. Yes, I remember that play because I had to write an apology letter to the coach. Of course, I remember that game.
and I mean, I remember seeing it and going, why is Lex doing push-ups? But, I didn't think much about it. And then I heard Pat post-game, and I'm like, Lord have mercy, Pat is mad. Yeah. What did Pat think? What did Pat think it was?
Like, being exactly what it was, being cocky. Well, she thought it was more disrespectful to the coach. I was just being cocky to the player because we were going back and forth. So to me, it didn't matter that the game was over and we won. Like, I knew we had that game. It was more of a competitive thing, really, that growing up playing neighborhood basketball at the park with older people thing where, I don't care what the score is. You're not going to just do that. I'm about to embarrass you. So when she pushed me, basically because I finished the play, I wanted to flex on her. So I just started doing push-ups. Like, that ain't even affect me. Like, that's what happened. Coach was pissed. Can I say that? I'm sorry. She was extremely mad. Extremely mad.
I heard her post game, and I'm like, boy, this is bad even by – so Pat knew exactly what you were doing is what you're saying.
Coach knew me, pretty well. I can say that looking back now, even though I butted heads because I'm like, you don't know me, but Coach knew me very well. Yes.
Hang on, I'm see what my dogs are up to. What are y'all doing?
Uh-oh. So, again, ladies and gents, make sure y'all tune in every week, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. When Maria gets back in here from checking on her dogs, yes, we get up, we check on our dogs. People come in and out. Why? Because this is real life. We're real people taking time out of our evening to make sure we share some great things, some tips, some insight, and some personal opinions on what's going on with Lady Vol basketball, Lady Vol player, coaches, and even former Lady Vols. So please continue to press that like button, the thumbs up, share it, and help us continue to grow our audience. All right, Maria, what you got before we wrap up and head out? Since you
we'll go about 5 more minutes or so. As you know, I like to argue and debate and spar, and one thing Pat and I always disagreed on. I mean, Pat and I would get into back and forths about it. Pat was convinced that she could turn somebody into a leader. And I said, Pat, if someone has leadership qualities, I think you can get them out of that person every single time. You'll dig it out of them. But I don't think you can take someone who is not naturally inclined to be a leader and turn them into a leader.
Do you have an example?
Pretty much anybody she tried to do it with that I didn't think had leadership in them. I mean, she's like, we need so-and-so to step up. I'm like, that's a quiet kind of player. That play, you know what I always love is when I hear a player say, I lead by example. I mean, to me, I'm like, no, that means you don't lead at all. You're not leading. When you say, I lead by example, no, you're not leading, period.
I used to say that, Maria. Why you because I think
by example. Like, no. And Pat was like, I can make a player turn. And I'm like, no, you can't. No, you're not going to turn a player.
Who did she give us one example of who, in your opinion, this is only your opinion, that she tried to make a leader that did not turn out to be a leader?
Shakina Strickland.
You don't think Keena turned out to be a leader?
No, Shakina liked to shoot threes and go fishing. I mean, that I love Shakina Strickland, but Pat trying to turn her into a leader at the point was not going to happen at all.
Yeah.
Shakina's not going to be in your face and challenging teammates, and
that's not her game or her personality.
No, and I was telling Pat, you do a disservice to these players trying to bring out of something that's not in them because they can't deliver it to you.
Yeah,
you're going to have to recruit that.
Yeah.
And she never agreed with me, but it's fun to disagree with Pat because Pat's stubborn. She thinks she can do anything with anybody.
Rare, right? That people actually disagree unless you're close enough to get away with it.
Yeah, but she enjoyed the back and forth. But I mean, she always thought she was right. And
oh, really?
Oh yeah, she disagreed with me, but
I'm not.
And I told her that's okay, Pat. And if she were around now, I'd say, so how did that Strickland at point guard leadership work out for you?
I think she would have a good laugh out of that.
And Shakina would too. I mean, I remember asking Shakina about being a leader. She's like, "Yeah, I'm trying. I'm like, this kid that doesn't want to take that role. Don't make her even try to take it."
Yeah. Well, sometimes okay, she's not a point guard, so you don't really have to force her to be a leader, because coach always say, it starts with you. It starts at the top. It starts with the point guard. And so, yeah, you have to vocally lead on both ends of the court, calling defenses, offenses, what are we doing on pick and roll, all of that, right? You are the extension of the coach. So you have to be a vocal leader. But if you're, a wing player or a post player, technically you don't have to be a leader. Now, there are certain players, your superstar or highly, talented players that, you have to be a leader because everybody's looking at you anyway, right? And I think that was coach's thing. Like, if she sees that you just have this maximum potential, she's like, no, I'm getting everything out of you, everything out of you. And sometimes, like you said, that can actually hurt a player and or their experience. Or maybe Pat gets that that beast and that leadership out of you.
Now, individually, she connected with Shakina. Shakina needed Pat mad at her to play. She played better when Pat was chewing all over her. She didn't. That last season when Pat was fading so much, it hurt Shakina. She needed that Pat voice in her ear. But for your team, that the national championship team, we'll go to the last one, 2008.
Okay.
With you, Shannon, Nikki, Alberta, and Candace.
Yeah.
Who was the leader on the court?
I would say me. What do you mean?
Yeah, I agree. And that is what I was trying to tell Pat. Like, you could have tried to make Candace be your primary voice on the. Candace that's not the role Candace was going to take at that point. Nikki was willing to take it in terms of accountability, but that wasn't her primary role to get the team in it. And now Bobbitt could do it too, but Bobbitt, she had that New York attitude. You sometimes had to rein her in just a bit.
Oh, straight beast mode. I love a little Bobbitt.
Yeah, but I would agree. In fact, I'll have to find the magazine. There's an old Rocky Top News with you on the cover that says Lex the leader, and I've still got copies of it.
Yeah, find that for me. I would love to see
I need to get that to you. But it took you 2 years to really grow into that role. And Pat was going to get it out of you, and that's because it existed in you in the beginning. But Pat needed to get it out. So what took you 2 years to change, to get to where you could get on the same page as Pat?
My wrist injury, honestly. When I broke my wrist, I approached the game and even my relationship with coach with a lot more humility. Coming in, having the accolades behind me that I had coming in as a freshman, feeling like I have something to prove, being on a mission to win championships. It was more so, listen, I'm a winner. I know I'll do whatever it takes to win. You don't have to tell me how to win. Instead of trying to soak up the little lessons or corrections that she's making to make me a better winner, right? Once I broke my wrist and I'm obviously on the bench and I'm watching the game and practices and I'm listening to coach and I'm listening to how she's dealing with other point guards and players that she feels should be in that leadership role. And I'm like, oh, it's not personal. Okay. She really is trying to help me. Okay, let me study. So I started studying her and what she was saying to the people who she was trying to get to be leaders, to Candace, to Nikki, to Kate wasn't playing at that time. She was in and out. Oh, 08, she didn't play. It'd be Bobbitt. So I was watching their response, and then I would watch kind of what happened afterwards. Where did they play more productive? Did it, make it worse? Did it put them inside their head? And then how can I help, once they're on the bench, because I'm on the bench too. Hey, listen, look, I've been over here and I've been kind of overhearing them. They're a little bit right. You're doing this, but listen, you still got to stay in the game. You got to do your thing, blah, 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 but look to do this or that more. So I kind of took on that assistant coaching job, and it was honestly helping me learn more about my teammates. So that's what took that time. So it actually took me being on the sidelines to come and approach the game with more humility and be more receptive and more coachable to become that leader.
And that's the beauty of watching college athletes. You come in as babies and you mature. I mean, you change in so many ways from freshman to senior year. Another one Pat tried to force into a leadership role after you guys left, even when she was just a sophomore, was Angie Bjorklund. I mean, Angie orbited planet Angie. She was off somewhere in the galaxy. I mean, Angie will definitely play hard. She will do everything she can. She gets in the gym. She's not going to be that person who you're actually going to funnel she's not the one who's going to lead from that guard spot.
Right.
And she did a lot. She tried very hard to do everything Pat wanted her to do, but you could see the pressure weighing on her. I am so far out of my comfort zone. And I kept telling Pat, by taking a player that far out of her comfort zone, you're not getting out of her what you can. You're not getting her full, because you've got her so far. And Pat thought, she was working with Play-Doh and she could shape it into anything she wanted. But I'll let you take this one from saying, and this can be our last question.
All
Who
right.
works harder? Who works harder, guards or post players, both offensively and defensively? And I will point out that I'm talking to a guard, and the question is being asked by a post player who happens to live in your house. So be very careful with this answer.
Okay, I'm going to say this. I had the pleasure of actually playing the post as a professional athlete against legit 6'5" WNBA players overseas when, I'm like either the most athletic or the next athletic. Not the tallest, not the biggest, not a post player, just someone they feel could guard in the post, okay? A 7-game championship series. I had to guard the center position, which means I was banging every single time down the court. My body has never hurt so bad. So in games, for sure, the post players, y'all get constant contact. In practice, I don't know. We're running floor to floor, end to end. The practice guys may or may not give you a little break. They may not really be banging you as hard as you're getting banged in the game. Whereas guards, we're getting grabbed up, pushed, chest hit, whatever their ego tells them to do at the time for them not to allow us to get by them. So I think that for that answer, it is a tie ball game, but in the game, post players definitely take more of a beating. So I would have to say they work a little bit harder in the games. Physically, mentally, guard.
Yeah.
Mentally, guard. Physically, post.
Because you guys are trying to get everybody in the right spot. And the post are waiting for the guards to get everything started and executed, and calling out defense. I mean, you got a lot of mental work to do.
Yep.
I think Tamari Key would agree with us. I mean, she's just shoved and pushed and held, and I mean, she has to work over and over and over again, and just to try to get open in the paint. I would not want to be a post player. Fortunately, I'm 5'5", and that would never have been a consideration in my life. So. But I agree. Well, this hour went by fast. Carolyn Malone said Marta seems like a leader. Marta might be able to do that. I don't ask freshmen to do it, but she plays pretty focused, and she seems committed to the game.
I think she still needs time.
Yeah, she needs time. I don't ask freshmen. And Sand said post got to help because guards can't stay in front of their man.
Wow, that's because people are actually fast up there. Like, we move. Like, they're not just in this one little confined space. But we're not going to have that argument on camera, baby. All right?
She's in a mood tonight. So would love to hear what Shelly Collier felt like last night. I actually briefly exchanged some text messages with her. I mean, she bleeds Lady Vol orange, but that was her baby girl on the floor. So, I mean, you don't even have to, if you're a mama, I mean, in that particular circumstance, you pulling for your baby.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah. She better have been pulling for Casey and Lipscomb in that case.
Right. And she probably had a little bit of joy jumping on the inside, seeing her baby play on the summit also, even though it's not in that Lady Vol uniform.
No, yeah. Especially since Pat held every one of her children when they were born. So, well, Lex, you've been a great sport, and we will keep this up every Tuesday. We will not see you Thursday. We will not see you Sunday.
Nope.
We will see you Tuesday, and hopefully we're talking about the Arkansas game.
Absolutely. Everybody, y'all have a blessed night. Thank you, Orange Mountain Designs. Make sure y'all go to orangemountaindesigns.com, get you some gear, or hop onto volunteerroadshow.com. Any merchandise that you purchase, a percentage of that goes to Sam Strong Foundation, which helps families at St. Jude that have children as cancer patients. So, Sam, stay strong. We love you, buddy. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Peace.